Greetings, Earthlings, wisdom keepers, wisdom seekers. Welcome back to WizdomDropz, your source for daily drops of wisdom and savvy cat astrology. My name is Tonia. Today we are discussing the Mercury retrograde cycle that is about to, thank Goddess, hallelujah, amen, come to an end as of November 3rd, 2020. So this is a fun time because Mercury retrograde has like this really ominous reputation for just messing a lot of things up. And we're just going to look through the two different charts today of when Mercury went retrograde on October 14th of 2020 and when Mercury goes direct on November 3rd. Here, as you're viewing this, probably like today, right? Or like this week, whatever. So, we're going to compare these two charts and really understand what is this Mercury retrograde cycle calling for us to do? What is it asking for us to do, to put into action in our lives? And so you're going to gain that insight by watching this. And before I jump into all that, a couple quick announcements. Number one, if you're not already subscribed, subscribe as you vibe, because we is building tribe here on the WizdomDropz platform. Thank you to everybody who has been subscribing. You rock and roll, baby, or whatever genre of music you're into. Second thing, like this video if it brings you any value whatsoever by the end of it, because that helps other people get this information, and we're building an astrological collective of like knowledge sharing and just like upping our savvy cat astrology game, so our skills. So basically do that to support the community and also like the community of astrology, like good astrology. And if you are an asshole and hit the down button, that's fine too, because it still helps the channel grow, ironically enough. So there's that. Now, with that said, let's jump into sharing the screen, shall we, of when Mercury went retrograde. BT dubs, I just did a video on this for Mars as well, and the Mars cycle that's coming to a nice, delicious, fruition as well in the next couple weeks here. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. I'm going to post it after this because the temporal relevance. But anyway, Mercury went retrograde here on October 14th, okay? And you can see that's going to be impactful for a few reasons. Look at this T square. In the chart, what do you see? You see a big red triangle, So that's going to be significant because that's telling us like, hey, there's tension right now. Like, yeah, all these blue lines are really nice and supportive. And yeah, that's really helpful. That's really great. That's really healing in these certain regards, right? Where we do have this nice trine between Venus and also Jupiter. So the two benefics were at peace with each other. That's really good energy. When Mercury went retrograde, I think that's a good omen for this cycle. And Mercury went retrograde at 11 degrees of Scorpio. Pay attention to that because, oh, baby, is this also beautiful? Look at this. 22 degrees was the sun in Libra. So we had a master number thing here, and you're about to see what's going to happen when it goes direct. That's going to be really interesting when we shift charts on this note. Also, 22 degrees of Pluto was in the heavens, another master number. These are master numbers of building things, 22. And these are master number 11 of spiritual consciousness and ascension of consciousness, So that's another beautiful omen around this Mercury retrograde. But anytime a planet is retrograde, it's asking us to go within 3 times as deeply on whatever topic of life that planet rules. And Mercury rules our communications, our thoughts, our intellect, processes of problem solving. Okay, so you're being asked to go deeper into a deep ass Mercury up here in the deepest sign possible, Scorpio, at this time. Scorpio Mercury answers what is real. Okay, that's the question you're being asked. What is real? What is worthy? What is attainable? And how can we get it? And that's all Mercury and Scorpio. Scorpio wants to get something at the end of the day. It has an objective. So, Mercury going retrograde there is how do we get the objective? Mercury is the planet of problem solving. How do we problem solve our Scorpio objective? You see how I'm saying that? Putting that all together. So that is the call to action as we look at this chart. Also, interestingly enough, Mercury goes retrograde as it's in this incredibly intense opposition to Uranus. So this whole Mercury retrograde cycle is all about truth, coming to the truth coming out. That's what this whole cycle has been about. The truth has been coming out. You cannot sit there and tell me in one area of life or another, probably two, because this is an axis after all of 2 signs, hasn't been coming to light with some truth. Some truth has been coming to light in at least one area of your life under this lunation, okay? Now, worth noting, when it goes retrograde all the way back into Libra. You need to know that. We're not going to show that in this chart, but it goes back all the way back into Libra when Mercury does retrograde. Okay. Now, the T-square, let's reference that and then move on to the next chart because we want to move along. But the 22-degree sun opposite a 20-degree retrograde Mars. Okay. Again, engaged with another 22-degree planet, Pluto, right here. Very tight T-square, very tight. So this is calling us to be Plutonian, to come into our power, to come into our ability to transform systems, governments, structures, Capricorn, okay? Because the T-square apex, this red line, triangle apex point, the tip of it, that's the call to action, Pluto. So how do you structure, restructure? How do you death and rebirth Capricorn themes, okay? That's what's being asked right now. Now, Mercury is opposite that Uranus, meaning that the truth is going to come out and it's going to be through shocking revelatory means of explosions or otherwise comparable to that, like lightning events, or if you're going to water that down or change that, like sudden events, like accidents, even things that are like people saying things that just flipped off their tongue and they didn't really think about it. It's just like they did it because these are both really quick planets. Mercury and Uranus, and they're like opposite each other, right? So truth, but sometimes hurtful truth, or sometimes not so pleasant truth. But the earth and the earthquakes and the storms and all that we've been seeing, this is all that. The earthquakes, the tsunamis, all these storms are Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus is retrograde. So it's 3 times as deep right now, opposite Mercury retrograde. And we're forced to rethink as a collective, how do we deal with that? The psychology is there. It's the psychological conversation aspect of 180-degree opposition is there. Okay. So that's the tone of this cycle starting. Now we need to move on. We're going to move on. That's the kind of what's going on as it begins. That's like our karmic, like what spirit is asking us to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the world, basically, for this lunation. It's like the karmic homework, that like is going on with the transit. So I just think it's relevant for us to understand, where are we coming from, in this Mercury retrograde? What was spirit asking of us when it went retrograde? And now we get to its forward moving direct motion. This is really great. Why is this great? Because Mercury is in, yes, again, another effing T-square, because look, it's opposite Mars. And this is a wider orb, so not all astrologers are going to agree like that's a T-square, but I call it a T-square. So 25 degrees to 15 degrees, that's within 10 degrees, okay? And then the apex activator is very much so both of the Jupiter and Pluto here in this conjunction. So again, we see Pluto is the culprit in a T-square. A month later, almost, right? Pluto's still the culprit in a T-square, and this time the planets have moved. So it's still the Mars, Pluto. This is the dynamic that's been ongoing, and then now Mercury over here in Libra. And now remember, it went retrograde at what degree? 11 degrees Scorpio. Holy freaking guacamole. What is that 11 degrees Scorpio, y'all, as this Mercury actually goes direct? The sun. How fucking poetic is that? The sun just went to where Mercury started its retrograde and reflection cycle. So like when we were asked to be thinking deeper about how do we problem solve this environmental issue, how do we problem solve what's going on in the world right now at a deeper level, how do we really detect truth at a deeper level, when Mercury was at 11 degrees Scorpio, now the sun is there illuminating it. It's like the gift. It's the gift, because the sun is divine consciousness. It's the most benevolent energy, so to speak, along with the moon of a feminine caliber. But the sun is like the essence of spirit in a sense. So it's bringing us the gift of that awareness. And I like that it's in even though it's a wide orb, I like that it's in a trine to this Neptune, because Neptune at a higher level is very auspicious and very compassionate and very altruistic. So it's supporting that kind of journey of discovery that is the truth about how we strategically get what we want. Previously a Mercury in Scorpio there at 11 degrees, right? The master number of 11, spirituality. This is a spiritual Mercury retrograde cycle, okay? Now, Mercury at this time is, as I said, opposite Mars. So quarrels are on opportunity. And interestingly enough, when Mars goes direct, he's engaged in an opposition to Venus. So there is a quarrel energy in the vibe in the air still. But it's how do we communicate about it? How do we communicate about it in a way that's like really supportive, you know, of like what we need to accomplish that's going to actually get done. So that's how do we be strategic and also insightful at the same time and take action from a savvy place of knowing, now that Mercury is moving, you know, forward, and understanding. And we had to reflect back over some of this late Libra stuff, really late Libra, because when it started, it was almost like right here too, right? So anyway, like late Libra to Scorpio, it was like Mercury's like, yeah, I'm gonna speed on through like I am like Mercury. And then it was like, wait, we need to rethink some of this. We need to rethink how we've been dealing with this Scorpio Libra axis, this cusp rather. So where have you been dealing with the deeper things, the possessions of the world, the darker things of the world, Scorpio? And where have you been dealing with the social things of the world as a collective and as an individual? I'm asking you. And how can we better address that? That's what we've been thinking about the last month. And so now when Mercury goes forward, it's all about, it's in good dignity again in Libra. It's not in shitty shape either in Scorpio, but you know, it's really, it's asking us to be enacting justice because it's opposite Mars. Now Mars is still retrograde for like another week or so, literally, after this Mercury goes direct. So now it's like Mercury is almost like, I have come to the understanding, Mars. It's almost speaking to Mars like this. I have come to this understanding, Mars. This is what we need to do. I am the solutionist, Mercury. And look at this auspicious divine sources support me. The source supports me in my discoveries. Mercury is saying this, right? Because the sun is at 11 degrees Mercury, where Mercury went retrograde at. And now it's like talking to Mars, like, I know what we need to do. I am the strategy problem solving planet. You're the strategy of action planet. Okay. I'm going to inform you through like tension because there's an opposition here. But Mars is still open to the reflections of Mercury. Why? Because it's retrograde. It's not forward moving. So it's in like the best opportunity to reach Mars right now is when it's retrograde, because it's less like forward moving. It's more reflective and internal because of that retrograde. So Mercury comes with a solution. Mars is receptive to hearing it, even though this is an opposition. How about that astrology interpretation? Wow. I'm impressed with myself, not to sound like an asshole, but I'm like, that's good shit, you know, like, to be honest with you. But with that said, I'm excited because the T square is what these two planets are having that little ta-ta tango in, you know, like cha-cha-cha, like that kind of thing. Because the T square at the apex point here, though, look, is 22 degrees of Pluto. So the point of it all is I know what we need to do. Mercury knows now because it has that divine 11-degree connection. It's back to the late degrees of Libra, and Mars is retrograde, receiving that insight. And the apex point is the referee. It's how you balance out these two people or these two forces. And Pluto says we need to transform. And Jupiter says I'm amplifying that, helping you support that, because it's 1 degree of separation at this point. I just did a video on that too if you want to check it out. It's coming up soon. Okay. Wow. So much intense astrology. I am excited for November. November is going to be a better month. Mark my words. Wow. I'm so excited. And you know, we're not off the chain yet because Mercury is going to come back opposition. I want to point out real quick to you, y'all. Mercury is going to come back in opposition to that Uranus. So truths are still going to be spoken and they're going to be abrasive out of nowhere. Things can happen out of nowhere, accidents, anything involving like tech or communication or travel, you know, like vehicles, because Mercury rules all that. Surprise, sudden events with that Uranus influence, that could happen again in the next couple weeks or whatever. But, and also right now the sun is opposite Uranus at the time of this Mercury moving forward. So the sun is divine consciousness and Uranus is higher truth. So higher truths are coming out to play. They're coming out to be, they're real. You know, higher truths are real. They're grounded. Why do I say they're real? Because they're grounded in Taurus. Uranus is in Taurus. So just be aware. I'm excited for us, man. That's a lot of deep astrology in a short amount of time, y'all. November, who is juicy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, put me a little comment down below, leave a video request if you're into that sort of thing for astrology stuff. And with that said, through next time, until next time, may the stars be with you. Peace.